Great, thank you. I'm so happy you guys all decided to come out today. I'm thrilled to be here. As the screen says, I'm a technical sales representative. I've been in outside sales for 22 years now. I currently work for a company called ChemSearch. We are a global manufacturer of industrial chemicals. And I have been with them for 18 years doing outside sales. I work primarily with heavy industry. I work with construction companies and city municipal departments and hospitals and hotels, casinos, school districts. Boy, you name it. I work with mechanics for heavy equipment and facilities engineers. I wanted to come in today because I feel like I've had so much experience over the years. I've gained a lot of knowledge that I feel will be beneficial for other people, and I feel like if you have something of value to offer, it's an injustice to keep it to yourself. So I feel like it's my role to help share, and hopefully you guys are all going to come out of here today with something new that you can apply to your business toward being successful. So I'm going to cover a lot, but I'm going to try and simplify it as best as I can. Everything I'm going to be talking about today, I could easily spend an entire day going over, and I'm going to try to squeeze it into 1 hour, but I don't want to overwhelm anybody. So I'm going to keep it simple. So I shared with you guys why I'm here, why I wanted to share with you, but I wanted to just hear from a few of you, why are you guys here? What made you want to come to this presentation, and what are you hoping to learn? Anybody want to share? Anybody have any thoughts when they woke up this morning and they thought, I think I'll go to a sales workshop today. That sounds like a blast. Like, what are you hoping to walk out with? Or what can you improve on?
Well, I've heard you speak before, so I knew it was going to be good. I know you always give great outlines as well, so I'm going to have a take home.
Awesome.
I'm in sales as my life is sales. And if I can gain one nugget from 1 hour presentation that might help me either save somebody some money or help myself financially or in a way personally or whatever, 80% of success is showing up. So if I already knew I was gonna listen to a good speaker and have a take home and be with some awesome people here at Adams Hub, it's a win-win!
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Anybody else? Tara?
It's more about reframing the sales process with me, because it's not something I've ever been comfortable thinking like I have to go out and sell and market. So I want to reframe it in such a way that I'm comfortable doing it and that I know that it makes sense, because it is going to be a benefit to the other person, but I want to feel more comfortable with it. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Anybody else? All right.
Well, it's my first lunch and learn. And as a good friend of mine just put it the other day, we're always selling, whether it's a product, a service, a friendship, trying to sell our kids on brushing their teeth before bed. Life really is about engaging people and bringing in that opportunity. So it's a little bit outside of my comfort zone and my wheelhouse, but I'd like to get better at it. So if you have some tips and tricks, I'll take them.
Awesome. I love it. So that sounds really familiar. For a lot of people, even just the word sales conjures up an image or an emotion that may not be the most positive. But like you said, everything is sales. And what I've often said, and I heard this somewhere else, and I like to repeat it, is how you do anything is how you do everything. When you apply these ways of thinking in your life and you apply them in your business, it can't help but move you towards success. So I'm going to go over some of those fundamental principles with you guys right now. One thing I want to do really quickly, I'm going to try this anyway and see if this works. I have a couple of little video clips that I wanted to share with you guys. For a lot of people, the idea of sales was planted very young in our minds. We had an idea, even as children or youth, adolescents, we got this idea about what sales is, and we ran with that. We grew, and then all of a sudden you get to be an adult and you're like, wait, I have to do that? Like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, can we just do everything but that? So I want you guys to really question, what is your framework around sales? How do you think about sales and your role in sales? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play two very short little movie clips that might have been movies that you saw as a child. I'm going to play two and see which one you tend to align your thought about sales around more, okay? And I'm hoping that the volume, I'm hoping it works. I didn't actually test it out first, but I'm hoping that this will work. Anybody remember the Muppet movie?
Oh, yeah.
It was one of my favorites when I was younger, and I'm hoping the audio works. Let's just see. No audio.
There's a speaker on the bottom,
Is there?
to the left? Click on that.
Turn it up on the TV.
Yeah, maybe the remote.
Volume. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Let's try it.
Let's see how that works.
You're swinging in very wide. Hold it, please. Here we go. Up the bump. Here we go. Hold on. All right. Pull up ahead here. Look at these cars. Yeah. Don't get the record down. No, he's not going to sell you fun. Yeah, look at him up there. Pull up a little further there, Mike. Where should I stop? How should I stop? A little bit further. Well, okay, here. Hey, somebody out of the garden. Okay. Chicken first.
Ah, my dear friends, welcome to Madman Mooney's Hubcap Heaven. Today is your lucky day.
It is?
Yes, it is. You for example, you're driving the wrong car.
I am.
I can put you in this German street machine for only $2,000, less than a $12 trade-in on your whole vehicle. Now this car is one of the great detachable fenders for narrow garages.
No thanks.
Hey, what is this pile of jack? Get rid of this heap. Come out here.
All right. So everybody's heard of the infamous car salesman, right? That's kind of what we think of. They're like, ooh, money. You know, I see somebody coming on the lot. Ooh, that's my next meal ticket right there. That feels a little uncomfortable. We don't want to be in that position to be that person. And so sometimes we're like, I don't want to do sales. All right. On the other hand, another one of my favorite movies from childhood. This is from Goonies. Everybody here seen Goonies? If you haven't, go see it. It's a great movie.
God. But still, don't you realize? The next time you see Sky, it'll be over another town. The next time you take a test, it'll be in some other school. Our parents, they want the best of stuff for us. But right now they gotta do what's right for them. Cause it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here. That's all over the second we ride up Troy's bucket.
All right, so there's Goonies. So, going back to the other screen, let's go like this. All right, so everybody's got a little outline, that a little packet. If anybody doesn't have a packet, raise your hand and I'll get you one. So the outline's gonna follow my presentation here. And you'll notice, all right, so what is sales? My definition of sales is it's a productive conversation that guides another person's actions towards something that's beneficial for them, okay? I don't say anything in here about taking anybody's money. It's just a conversation, that's it. Now, when you're a teenager, it's all about a productive conversation that guides somebody's behavior toward an action that's beneficial for you, like when you're asking your parents for the car, or to stay out late, extend your curfew. That is also sales, but you're the beneficiary. But for us, when we're in business, or even when we are job searching, for example, we're having a productive conversation to let that person who is the recipient of your conversation gain a better understanding of what is truly beneficial to them. And if you're job searching, you are beneficial to them. So it's about learning to communicate that. What sales isn't or should not be is manipulation, bullying, overpromising and underdelivering, bribery, or taking advantage of another person's resources in ways that are not beneficial to them. Okay? Some people have given sales a bad name because they do it like this. Okay? But I will tell you, this form of sales is very short-lived. You burn bridges very quickly, and it is a lot of work to try to rebuild those connections. You have to go back and do it over and over again. When you have these conversations up here, productive conversations that help people to benefit in some way and make sure that their needs are met, those relationships are lasting over a long period of time. It is a lot less energy to do it that way. And you also get the benefit of people telling other people about the value that you have added to them, and other people start looking for you. You start getting phone calls from people you don't know looking for your services because they've heard about you. It's a much nicer way to do business. All right, so really quick, my story. I graduated with a degree in communications from the University of Utah, which is where I grew up. When I graduated, I was broke. I had no money. I needed a job. I had no idea what I was going to do with a communications degree. It was about as broad a degree I could have possibly gotten. But I love people and I love the communication process. So a friend of mine said her company was hiring and invited me to shadow her for a day to see what she did. I said, great, that sounds awesome. You know, sign me up. So I went out with her, and it turned out we were doing door-to-door sales. Now, we were doing door-to-door sales for AT&T Business Long Distance Services. So we would walk into a business, and this was the late 90s, early 2000s. This was a time frame when there was a very common practice called slamming. Slamming was where telecommunications companies would telemarket you. They would record the conversation. They would ask you questions that would elicit a yes response, whatever the question was. They would use that recording of you saying yes to authorize transferring your service to their service fraudulently. And many people were being double billed, meaning when you got your phone bill, if you actually looked at it, your calls were may have been billed 3 or 4 times for the same calls by different providers at outrageous rates like $3 a minute. But nobody looked at their phone bills. They didn't know what was going on. So we would walk into these businesses, and I mean every single business along the street, and we would say something like this. Hi, my name's Karen. I'm with AT&T Customer Service. We have heard that there have been unauthorized charges showing up on people's phone bills in this area, and we're just here to show you where those might be showing up and if that's happening to you. And if you have unauthorized charges, we're going to show you how you can get rid of them. You know, if you've got 2 minutes, that's all it'll take. Just go ahead and grab your phone bill. And the business owner would be like, all right, sure, here's my phone bill. Thumb through, be like, oh, did you know that this MCI reseller is charging you $3.45 per minute for the phone calls that you're already paying your primary phone service for? And they're like, oh, how did that happen? Like, no, I didn't know I was paying all of that. Help, fix it. No problem. What we're gonna go ahead and do today is get you switched over to AT&T Long Distance at one low rate of 8 cents per minute. We're gonna get rid of all these other resellers. They're like, great, sign me up. It was an awesome job. I loved it. I got to spend all day going out, talking to people, making friends, finding out about their families and what they did for their vacation, and I got to solve their problems. I got to be of service, and that felt really good. So I did that for about 4 years until I got really tired of it. And then I ended up finding ChemSearch at a job fair. And so this is an example of what an average day might look like working with all my mechanics. And if you were to ask me what I do for a living now, I would tell you I make friends and I solve problems. That's it. Now there's some technology in there too, but the bottom line is I make friends and I solve problems. And really, I have a feeling that's what you guys are doing too. That's what your objectives are. All right, so I'm gonna tell you now that the process of reframing how we see ourselves in the sales process is 75% of everything that is the sales process. 25% of it is skills, and that's very important, but the skills mean nothing if you don't value yourself and your message and your presence with your client or your prospect. All right, so let's talk really quickly about valuing yourself and your message. you have to understand that your strengths, your skills, and your passion are your superpower. Nobody else can duplicate that. You are in your business for a reason. Really tap into that reason and understand that you are bringing something of value to the table for the person that you're talking to. They want to know what you know, and they need to know what you know. Also, the sales process is an asset to the person you're talking to. It is not a burden. It is not a burden to take up some of their time during the day, because your objective is to educate them on something that they don't know, which you are an expert at, right? Whether or not they choose to take advantage of your services. You know, it doesn't matter whether or not they say yes at the end. What matters is that you are adding value to their experience, and you should be there sharing what you know, because you're doing them a favor. Honestly, it is not a burden to do a sales call. It is a benefit to the person you're talking to. People will look to you to know what to think. You set the pace. If you go into your conversation and you are serious, they are going to be serious. If you go into your conversation and you're excited about what you're talking about, they're going to be excited to hear what you're so excited about. They're going to be excited to know more. So we set the pace, and they look to us to know how to think about the conversation that you're having. And when you respect your own voice, your energy will shift. So if you come into the conversation with a high level of relaxed confidence, they get the sense that they should be relaxed and confident too, okay? So be aware of your own energy when you come into the conversation, because you are setting the pace and they are essentially going to mirror your attitude. So be the pace setter of the conversation that you want to have. All right, so super important to me, I hope to a lot of other people, but integrity is essential in the sales process. Again, there are salespeople out there who give sales a bad name because they haven't figured this out yet, but integrity is what is going to give your business longevity. So first of all, your words must match your actions, and that begins at the very, very beginning of your conversations. So for example, if you set up a meeting for 2:00 p.m. and you say, I'll see you at 2, your actions better match your words. You better be there at 2:00. If you show up at 2:05, they're already understanding that your words don't always match your actions, and they may not trust everything that you have to say after that. If you say, I'm only going to take 15 minutes of your time, you better only take 15 minutes of your time. If you say, oh, this won't take long, it'll only take about 15 minutes, and you're there for an hour, they're like, this person doesn't follow through with what they say they're going to do. Can I trust them? So these are little underlying messages that you're sending, so you have to make sure that your words and your actions match. Be aware of your mindset when you go into a conversation. I like to say that what takes place inside of you comes to the outside of you. People will feel your vibe. If you go in with the mindset of, I have to get this sale, like my mortgage payment this month depends on it, or like I need this order, or whatever it is, people will see dollar signs in your eyes. They can smell it. I see it all the time. I was trying to pay my rent every month, so I was in that exact position. I think the important component to that is, before you go into that conversation, remember why you got into your business in the first place. Why are you even there doing what you're doing? If you need money, you could go somewhere else and earn it some other way, but you chose to do it this way. Why? What is it that you are hoping to provide to the person that you're talking to? How are you of value? What are your values? Beyond the need to earn money and income, what are your values? And really take 5 minutes and just get inside of yourself and remember why you're doing this in the first place, so that when you walk in, that's the thing that's foremost on your mind. Another thing that I would do when I was doing the door-to-door is I would imagine that the person that I was going in to see was a long-lost friend or an aunt, my favorite aunt that I haven't seen forever. I would literally be like, I'm going to see a friend, and I would walk in the door and I would say, hey, how's it going? It is so good to see you. I am so-and-so, and I'm with this business, and I'm already in the mindset that I'm talking to a friend, not a prospect. So these are little mind games that we play with ourselves, but we do have to be aware of and shift our own mental space prior to going into a call, and sometimes we even have to pivot and sort of realign ourselves with our values in the middle of a call. But being aware of where we are mentally and emotionally is very important. Cool? Okay, honesty builds trust. I think that a lot of people have been in a position where they have sold something that maybe wasn't the best thing for the person that they're talking to. Doesn't feel very good. I don't like it. I realized that taste lingers in my mouth long after I'm gone, and I think about it over and over and over again. It doesn't feel good to me. So because of that, I learned to actually turn away business sometimes if it's not the best thing for the person that I'm talking to. What happens when I turn away business is shocking. When I turn away business, they chase after me. And here's why. Let's say I'm talking to a mechanic. I go in and I get him to talk to me, and I'm going to help address some kind of a wear issue with their heavy equipment. And they say, well, what I'd really like is this. Do you guys carry this? I'll say, yeah, we carry that. What are you going to use it for? And they say, oh, we're going to use it for this. And I'll be like, I am not going to sell you that, because that is not the right thing for that application. And here's why. Because, blah, blah, blah. This is running at high RPMs, which means you're developing friction, which means you're getting heat, which means it's going to break down the chemical that I'm about to sell you. I'm not going to sell it to you. That's not the right thing for you. What I would recommend is this. Now, the fact that I just turned away business, they were ready to buy something from me, and I said, I'm not going to sell that to you. That's not the best thing for you. Their guard comes down, right? A lot of people may have their guard up initially in that conversation, but the moment you say you're not going to sell them what they want you to sell them because it's not the best thing for them, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, what is the best thing for me then? Now they're open and receptive because you've just shown them that you have their best interests in mind. And being honest with them lets them know that they are your priority. So sometimes I even look for an opportunity to turn away some business because I'm like, I need these guys to know that I'm in it for real. I need to find some way that I can be honest with them in a way that other salespeople are not going to be. I actually look for those opportunities, and it feels better. And then lastly, on the integrity section is always, always, always follow through. We live in I'm gonna call it an epidemic of flakery. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, because getting people to return your phone calls and return your emails is so difficult. And I can't believe how many people, my customers, tell me that they reached out to somebody to buy something and that person never even called them back. So this is rampant. If you want to set yourself apart from the competition, always, always, always follow through. If you say you're going to follow up with them in 2 days, have it in your calendar, set a reminder on your phone, and follow up with them exactly when you say you're going to. If you say you're going to email them some information, do it quickly, because immediately they're going to be like, oh, this is a person I can rely on. This is a person I can trust. I will tell you that I can't say a specific number, but a large percentage of people out there looking for business are not following through. They're shooting themselves in the foot, and they're basically leaving the door wide open for you. All right. So before I go into learning how to be masterful with your communication, so we've just been talking about reframing the sales process and how we think about ourselves and our role in those sales conversations. And I mentioned that 75% of sales is your mindset and only 25% is skills. That's my own ratio, but I stand by it from 22 years of experience. I want to give a quick example of why that 25% of skills is so important. My mom is a social worker, She's an LCSW social worker, and when she was in her 30s, her mom developed Alzheimer's, and my mom became her caregiver. My mom was an only child, so she was the only one who could provide care. And over time, she began to learn the importance of long-term care options and long-term care insurance. So at a certain point, she decided to make a shift. She was going to go into long-term care to help educate the public on the value of being prepared as you age to protect your assets from the costs of care. So she went into long-term care, and it wasn't until she had already committed to this and began training that she suddenly realized she was going to have to sell insurance. And she panicked, she freaked. It did not occur to her that she was becoming an insurance salesperson. And she did not like that idea at all, because she had this stigma in her mind of what sales is and what an insurance salesman does. So she decided she was going to do it her way. So she went out and very impassioned, believing very much in what she did and her product, and tried to educate these prospects on the value of long-term care insurance. And she failed miserably, because she didn't follow a sales framework to help guide that movement toward gaining business. She thought that just her passion alone for the topic was going to generate all this business, and it did not. So she tried it her way for about a month, got 0 insurance clients in that time frame, and then finally acquiesced, decided she was going to learn the sales process that her company was teaching, and she became a rock star. So what she did was she just empowered her passion with skills that helped enable business and made it easy for people to get their needs met. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm also keeping an eye on the time, because I want to do a little bit of interactive work with you guys too. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Learning to be masterful with your communication takes practice. If you were to get anything at all from this part of the presentation, I want you to understand the law of averages. The law of averages says very basically that the more people you talk to, the more yeses you get. You are not going to close every single person that you talk to, ever. It doesn't work that way. And your law of averages is going to be different depending on what you're representing, what your product is, and also based on your skill level. So when I was doing door-to-door sales, I knew that in order to pay my rent, I needed to basically get 3 yeses per day, 3 orders, 3 closes per day. In order to do that, I figured out I needed to see about 30 people. My law of averages was about 1 out of 10, so about 10%. I knew that if I went out in the field and I let my conversations go too long, or I lollygagged and I only saw 15 people for the day, I was not going to hit my goals. I had to see 30 people per day on average, give or take. I also knew that I may not get my yeses early or even midway through that day. They may not come until the very end. I might get 27 no's before I got my 3 yeses. But I will tell you, it was remarkable how consistent this was. And so I had to work really hard on maintaining my attitude through those 27 conversations, because I knew that is my law of averages and the yeses are coming. So we have to give ourselves the benefit of talking to enough people to make sure that we have that opportunity for those yeses to come in. Now with ChemSearch, I figured out that my law of averages is typically about 3 out of 8. If I can see 8 businesses in a day, which I used to when I was doing that, but now I maybe see 5. But nonetheless, my deals are a little bit bigger. My law of averages has changed. When I was still early in this business, I had to see 8 customers a day to get my 3 orders consistently, and I tracked it. I had a spreadsheet, a little chart that I wrote on the wall every day. How many calls did I make? How many presentations did I make? How many demos did I do? How many orders did I get? What was my overall, order total? I would document that every single day, all month long, to figure out what is my law of averages so that I could manage by the numbers and make sure I saw enough people every single day, or every week, or every month, however your structure is. It's going to be different for you. And as you get better and more skilled in your presentations, your law of averages is going to improve. So, and maybe instead of, if you start out with a law of averages that is 25%, you know that in order to get 3 yeses, you have to see 12 people. over time, it may be see 12 people, you're gonna get 6 yeses, you know, as your skills improve. So the second bullet point is be consistent, set yourself up for success. Make sure you're scheduling those 12 appointments in whatever time frame. And understand that if you see enough people, you're gonna get enough yeses, but you're never gonna close all of them, and that's totally normal, totally normal. Craft your questions mindfully to get yourself aligned. Oh, craft your questions mindfully to align yourself with your prospects' needs and values. So we're gonna go into this a little bit in the next section, but make sure that you are asking your customer questions to know and understand their values so that you're speaking to those values, because everybody's values and needs are gonna be a little different. And be prepared to handle objections. And I'm gonna go into that in the next section. All right, so here is a really good framework that you guys can all use. I have used this same framework for 22 years and I don't really deviate from it because it works. So quickly, all conversations need to start with an introduction. Your introduction sets the pace for the rest of the conversation, and the very first part of your introduction is your smile, your eye contact, and your excitement. You are setting the pace for the quality of the conversation you're about to have. If you're too serious, they're gonna be very serious. You're not really going to wanna have that conversation because serious is no fun. If you're excited, they're gonna be a lot more open to hearing what you have to say because they would also like to be excited. Everybody could use a little more excitement in their day, and if they have an opportunity to get what you are bringing to the table, they're gonna be open to that. But also the introduction is your chance to build rapport, and this has nothing to do with your product or your service. This has to do with breaking down the walls that separate people. So building rapport is basically just understanding who they are and learning a little bit about them. So for me, it's gonna be something like, how was your weekend? Did you get out and take advantage of the blue skies that we finally had after all this smoke? What did you do? Oh, you went there? I've been meaning to go there. It's been on my bucket list and I've never made it. What'd you think? Do you have any recommendations for when I go there? Like, what time should I go there? Is it crowded? And you just have this chit chat, little bit of conversation for about 15 minutes or so. Some people will call it an icebreaker, and it just really gets us on the same level so we're relatable and we're having a conversation and they're not feeling like they're on the defensive, and it doesn't feel like a sales call, it's just a conversation, and that sets the pace for the rest of the conversation. Now your short story is very important. Your short story is where you sum up what you do and why you're here. This lets them know what they can expect for the rest of the conversation, because otherwise in the back of their mind they're thinking, what do they want? What do they want? What do they want? Or what are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? Let them know right up front. It doesn't have to be a mystery. You want to sum it up so they know exactly what you guys are talking about, and you really want to focus on what I call features to benefits. You have to sum everything that you're going to be talking about up into just a few sentences. And the best way to do that is to say what the feature of your service is and what the benefit is to the other person. So for example, let's say I am walking into a construction company and I'm talking to the maintenance manager. I'll say something like, my name's Karen, I'm with ChemSearch. We are the world's largest manufacturer of specialty maintenance chemicals. I happen to be a lubrication specialist. And what I do is I help companies reduce unplanned downtime and unscheduled maintenance to help reduce costs. And I do that by addressing heat and wear issues, heat, wear, and contamination issues specifically. Now that mechanic knows exactly where we're going with this conversation, okay? The other benefit of your short story is when you practice it over and over again, that becomes your elevator pitch. Anybody here know what an elevator pitch is? You guys have heard of that? Your elevator pitch is your opportunity to find out if somebody that you're talking to has a need or an interest in what you do. And you may only get to talk to them in passing. You may only have 45 seconds in an elevator, but they might be a prospect for you. They may have a need that you can meet, and you want to pique their interest to see if there might be an opportunity for a relationship there. So the point of the short story is to pique the interest of the person you're talking about so that they are now open and receptive to learning more. The presentation is going to be the meat and potatoes of your conversation. This is where you're going to give them all the details that they need about how to meet their needs. But here's one mistake that I see very often with sales conversations is the person who is presenting information presents everything they know about that topic. But the person that they're talking to doesn't need to know everything they know. They only need to know certain things that apply to whatever their needs are. So when you're doing your presentation, make sure that you're being thoughtful and thorough, but don't overwhelm them with too much information, and ask them questions. Make sure you're asking questions so they can let you know what their needs are, so you can cater the information specifically to their needs. What you don't want to do is spew a whole bunch of information out there and make them grab the information that actually applies to their situation, because they're not going to do it. They're going to be overwhelmed, and then they're going to shut down. And then they're going to think that it's too complicated, and they're going to go into analysis paralysis, and they're not going to be able to make a decision. But that's not what they want. They have a problem, they have a need. They want you to solve their need. They want it to be easy, and it's your responsibility to sift through what their needs are to give them just the information that they need to make that decision that's going to be beneficial for them. Which leads us to the close. A lot of people do sales presentations and they never close. They never ask for the business because it's uncomfortable to ask somebody to spend money on you. But you're doing them a favor by closing specifically. So with the close, you want to make it simple and straightforward. They want to know exactly what you're offering. They want to know exactly what it's going to look like for them, and they want you to make it easy for them, right? You're having a conversation. It is not a mystery to them that this is a sales conversation. They get it. There's an objective. They want to know what that objective is, and they want to know what it's going to look like and how to do it, and they want it to be easy. So we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. And lastly is be prepared to address objections. When you go for your close, the close is very important because it will do one of two things for you. You'll either get a yes, which is great, but very often you don't get a yes right away. What you get is not a no, you get an I don't know. So when you go for your close, that is a very important part of the conversation because that lets you know what they don't yet know that they need to know. So if they're not ready to say yes yet, that's perfect because it gives you the opportunity to say, what kinds of concerns do you have? What are your objectives? You know, in my business, I tell my mechanics, I say, if you had a magic wand that you could wave over this problem, what would happen? What would your magic wand create for you? And they say, I would like to never have to change out failed bearings in the field again because it takes so much time and it sets us back on our project. I'm like, great, let's talk about bearings. The close is an opportunity to learn more about what their needs are. It's not scary. It is an information gathering tool. And you'll probably have to close multiple times. So the first time that you get a no, it's an I don't know, and it's your opportunity to learn a little bit more. The second time you get a no, it's still an I don't know because there's something that you haven't addressed for them yet that is part of their needs that is preventing them from doing business with you. Your third no, it might be a no, okay? We might have gotten to the point where they have needs or they have the inability to do business with you at this time, but give yourself the benefit of exploring all of the objections that they have because their objections tell you what else they need to know from you. And when you address objections, make sure you're prepared. So we're gonna do just a very quick activity and I'm going to give you some homework and I'm gonna tell you what that homework is right now because I don't wanna forget. Your homework is to go home and write down, create a list of every single objection that you may get in those conversations for why somebody's not ready to do business with you. Every single one. You should have a nice long list. And then I want you to craft a response to every single one of those objections. Maybe even craft 2 or 3 responses to every single one of those objections. And you're gonna practice those. The more you practice responding to objections, the more relaxed you are in your conversations, because there's nothing that's going to catch you off guard that you're not prepared for. When you are relaxed in your conversations, you give your prospect permission to also be relaxed in that conversation. So nobody feels like there's any stress or any pressure at that point. Then you're creating a conversation that feels good to both parties, and everybody wants to be in business with something that feels good.